Well, I guess I was right. Just a couple years too early, it would seem. Gamergate 2.0 has well and truly begun, according to a wide swath of right-wing video game content creators. And all because of a topic that we have heard referenced a few times in the last couple streams from different Chud YouTubers. And it's like, what is this acronym, ESG? We heard the Starfield pronouns guy scream about it in yet another meltdown. We heard several other content creators that I can't remember off the top of my head right now. I think even Alex Jones, I might be wrong, referenced this ESG acronym. And when Googling it, what came up was a stock, like a stock. It was basically an index fund, an S&P, or not S&P. Here, I will read ESG to you. Environmental, social, and corporate governance is a set of considerations including environmental issues, social issues, and corporate governance that can be considered in investing. Investing with ESG considerations is sometimes referred to as responsible investing, or in more proactive cases, impact investing. So that's a pretty basic explanation of things, but there is a stock, okay? There is a stock called Vanguard ESG. We watched a video recently by Upper Echelon Gaming that was claiming that, this is explaining what ESG was and how it was going to start Gamergate 2.0. We did this just a couple days ago, and on my day off, the entire internet blew up about it. So, essentially, there is a company called Sweet Baby Inc. or something like that. Just Sweet Baby is the name of the company. Sounds like something Matt Walsh would make, like Matt Walsh's company or something. But what they are is a consulting firm. They are essentially just a company that has access to a bunch of representatives from all around the world, from different backgrounds, from like sexualities, gender identities, races, like nationalities, cultures, religions, etc., right? The idea of this consulting firm is that if you are making a product that, let's just say some aspects of it could potentially offend some audiences, you have this company go over your scripts and over your media. They tell you if there's anything there that is likely to cause serious problems, and they can even recommend things that you can add in order to make the media more likely to appeal to have a high ESG score, quote unquote, as the right-wingers like to say. Essentially, it is a company that helps other companies make their own company and their products more progressive on a surface level, or at least in their messaging and in their representation. So, to be fair, there is a small grain of truth to what the right is going to be complaining about here. There is a company called Sweet Baby that is doing this. Now, the ESG part of this, the ESG Vanguard thing, ESG Vanguard is like a big... Here, let me bring up a... Basically, if you go on to, say, Robinhood, or any other brokerage app right now, you will see here, can I bring up the stock? What? Do I have to bring up Robinhood, I guess? Well, I guess I have to spoil the surprise I was setting up with this bit here, just to show you the stock. Alright. Vanguard ESG US Stock ETF. Basically, this stock has become the core center nothing burger MacGuffin of outrage, for lack of better phrasing, that has started what these people are calling Gamergate 2.0. Isn't Vanguard bad? I mean, they're not great. Obviously, massive investment firms. They're not fantastic, but they work with everybody. Essentially, the right has finally figured out that under our late capitalistic society, pretty much every company is owned by like 4 companies. Like, it might be 3, you know? Like, eventually, once you go down the funnel, everything consolidates down to a very small group of people owning most of the industry and companies and businesses in America. So the right have figured this out finally. And they've made the connection of Vanguard, and ESG being like this woke thing. They've made the connection of Sweet Baby Inc. or whatever working with or being part of Vanguard, as many other companies of the sort are, by the way. And they have essentially made it so that this stock is the center of their outrage. Now, right before stream, and I was so glad that I was able to get it through before stream, for like a couple years now, whenever I have like, you know, I don't know, $10, $15, $20 that I don't need for anything, I'll throw it into Robinhood and invest it. Pretty much considering it gone the second I throw it in there, and I'll be pleasantly surprised if it ends up making back any money, right? I consider investing a little bit like gambling. You just don't consider any of the money you gamble to ever come back to you, and you'll never be disappointed, and you'll never, generally never, make any poor financial decisions. And so I've been investing in the S&P 500, or as it's just called, like SPY S&P now or whatever. Very low risk, low reward index fund. And, you know, it did well by me for the last couple years, but I decided today, early this morning, to pull my money out of that, to sell all my shares, and to buy into Vanguard ESG stock ETF. Because right now, post that video coming out, it is in a dip after a multi-year steady upward lift. Look at this, chat. So right now, Vanguard ESG, or whatever the fuck it's called, as you can see, it is dipping due to the current outrage. Not by much, clearly. Like, it's not getting hit too hard, but, you know, by the dip, if you will. But look at its lifetime, and you'll see this has had some pretty substantial percentage increase over its time since 2018. It is a relatively new stock with a pretty low price per share that seems to have no other indications other than positive for its future. Yeah, dip. There's not much of an overall dip happening right now with this right-wing reaction, but it's as much of a dip as you can expect, and these types of funds tend to go up in the long term. So I invested. Over time, I've sort of accumulated like $500 in my Robinhood account, $504, and I have since, as of today, invested that during today's, like, what is it, 0.14% dip. And let's just hope it goes up from here. The right says go woke, go broke. I say my portfolio will be the judge of that. So with that in mind, I've got a video called Sweet Baby Inc. is being destroyed after their disgusting past behavior was exposed. Now, mind you, this stock is not for Sweet Baby Inc. It is simply for Vanguard ETF, which is just a fund that is related to Sweet Baby Inc. So we'll see. If the right considers them tied together and it ends up being a profit, then there you go. I guess go woke, go rich, or whatever. Probably won't be rich, but go woke, gain like $10 on your investment. It's pretty hard to get more money than that off of such safe investments. You know, it's very low risk, low reward as well. But regardless, we'll see how it goes in the long run. The economy's been on the general uptrend, so it's kind of hard to not make your money back right now after such a massive economic recession when everything is just going up and has nowhere to go but up. Oh god, I think somebody just had like a meltdown in my YouTube chat over there. Well, hopefully they treat you well at the mental institution, my friend. Have a good one. Okay, let's start this.
All right, in case you guys missed it, Gamergate 2.0 seems to have kicked off this week, and if you're not quite sure why I'm saying that, here's a little recap, kind of a TLDR about everything going on with everybody's favorite company, Sweet Baby Inc. this last week. So, an article we have here from Fandom Pulse says, Chris Kindred of Sweet Baby Inc. attempts to...
Fandom Pulse. You know, one of my favorite things about these right-wing, like, media grifter chuds is that they always make videos that are... Like, I'll do videos sometimes where most of the video is just me reading an article and giving commentary, sort of the same format. The most fundamental difference is I'll be reading, like, I don't know, like a fucking CNN, MSNBC, or like a NPR article, something like that. These guys will read an article from Fandom Pulse or Bounding Into Comics or one of those like nerd right-wing media websites that is just not even attempting to hide its bias. Mind you, this is a very unsuccessful right-wing YouTuber, by the way. We are not watching like a big, massive chud YouTuber right now, so as you can imagine, the lack of hiding the poor sourcing of information for these videos is not paying off for this guy.
Cancel a Steam curator for revealing their video game projects. Long story short, this company's Sweet Baby Inc. They are a game development and consultation firm. Essentially what they've done is they've latched their name, their brand, onto a couple dozen big studios.
Basically every big game or many small ones that you've played in the last like 4-5 years now, they had a part in it. Not like in making it, but they had like an association with it. They saw it. They, maybe had something to say about it and had some effect on it in a way. They're massive. They are massive. They have had effects on games that completely failed, like Saints Row, whatever the fuck. And they have had their effects on games that absolutely succeeded, like Sony Spider-Man and The Last of Us and what else? God of War.
Studios such as Xbox Game Studios, Square Enix, Rocksteady, Electronic Arts, a whole bunch of different studios, guys. I can't even think of all the ones they're attached to. They've had a hand in many different games that have... Most of the games have been very, very... they've been flops. They've not been received well. They haven't sold well. There's been a few notable ones.
Okay, so we're starting right off with the, hey guys, I'm going to pull shit out of my ass and just say it, and you guys are going to trust me because it kind of sounds right, because it aligns with your beliefs already. So, this company works with like 90% of the big developer, or not even big, but like recognizable developers that you've ever heard of, particularly here in America. They are behind some of the biggest blockbuster game releases and some of the biggest dumpster fires of all time, simply because they are behind so many fucking games. You're basically making the logic that, like, because every creator of a bad fail movie drank water, that means drinking water ruins your ability to make good art. No. Plenty of people who also made the best movies ever actually drank water. Not a perfect comparison, but obviously this guy's logic isn't, very sound. Something you'll start to realize over time, that's a very big pattern, is right-wing content creators are able to get away with just kind of saying stuff that feels right a lot of the time. Like, they'll just say, yeah, a lot of these games have completely failed and fallen flat. There's no expectation to support that claim. And I know it doesn't really sound like a serious or important claim either, but he is going to try to use the claim that these games are failing as a sort of modification or a build-up to an argument that he is about to make about how progressivism is ruining gaming. Now, the fact is, companies do things for one reason and one reason only: money. These people's core argument is, and has been, and will continue to be, go woke, go broke. these companies don't have some kind of agenda that exists outside of making money. The reason they're doing this is money. But these people desperately try to hint and suggest or outright say sometimes that there's some kind of secret agenda at play here that is not related to making money. Interesting.
And they're like the Marvel Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok. There are certain games where it hasn't hurt the sale of the game, but they definitely...
Wait, it hasn't hurt that... Okay, you have yet to provide any evidence whatsoever that the association with Sweet Baby or whatever actually harms these games. You're taking games that have not had any poor effects because of association and saying, there are some games that haven't been hurt by their association with Sweet Baby, but every example where a game did fail and is associated is evidence for my claim, but every exception is just, an outlier. That's not worth considering. I see. So, full of shit. Just give me money, watch my videos, and trust me as I pull things out of my ass that sound like they, you already agree with them. That's basically what these people do. This guy's not even reading the article from the website that already agrees with him and all of his viewers. That's the funny thing as well. He's like scrolling through it and summarizing it and talking about it without actually reading the article. Maybe he does in a second, but he hasn't started yet. Are we going to get a sponsorship that's going to take up like 2 whole minutes of the 7-minute video? That would be very in character for a channel like this.
There's been some controversy about it. For example, God of War Ragnarok deciding to have a black Norse god for representation purposes.
I'm sorry. Are you fucking stupid? Did this guy play God of War Ragnarok? Because, for one, she's not a Norse god, she's a giant. Like, literally just objectively wrong there. Not a Norse god, literally a giant who comes from a different realm that is considered, like, exotic, distant, alien, and mysterious to, like, Odin and the Aesir gods. Okay, so we've got, like, an actual fake gamer here, unironically. Like, I get the idea that, like, Norse mythology game should probably mostly have, like, Norse-looking characters. But the whole point of Jotunheim and Ironwood, which is where she lives... I can't remember her name right now. Fuck, how am I blanking on her name? She's like a very... Angrboda. Her name's Angrboda. I just remembered it. Yeah, Angrboda is a giant who lives in Jotunheim, which is, like, another... It's a completely different realm from, like, Midgard, Asgard. It's considered mysterious and exotic and alien. The giants are considered exotic, mysterious, and alien, and different, and that's part of why they're subjugated by the Aesir and exterminated. So I don't really see it as, like, really all that... Like, it doesn't really even feel like it was a political statement to have Angrboda be black in that game. It just kind of... Yeah... Norse looking, yeah, like blonde, white, like Viking, stereotypical Viking looking characters. But I feel like the vibe that I got from that it didn't even feel like, they're doing a progressive thing here. It actually just straight up felt like good world building. Like, the only people who saw Angrboda and thought race was the first thing that popped into their head were people like this. I think most people, like, if it was something that was considerable to them, they just thought, interesting world building. Okay.
Spider-Man 2, there was a lot of the LGBT trans agenda being pushed in there, and
damn, this guy doesn't know how to hide it.
So there's been a lot of controversy about it. Then you have things like the Saints Row reboot, which was a complete flop. Everybody hated it. Starfield was a big bomb. Sweet Baby Inc. was attached to both those games as well.
So I guess we finally found what the right is going to use as their, like, new Anita Sarkeesian to blame every single thing they claim is bad and or woke about gaming on. That, like, Sweet Baby Inc., this company, is going to be the new Anita Sarkeesian. They finally got something new to be their, like, scapegoat, and they're like, they are going to, you are going to hear Sweet Baby Inc. and ESG so fucking much this year. Oh my god. You are going to hear it so much. They're going to turn this into the most SEO political buzzword you've ever heard. And the fact that it's starting here with these people, hell, using woke and like all these phrases that are now popular with Republican politicians to deride the left, all these things started with conservative media grift tubers like this guy in the quartering, and eventually worked its way up the ladder to top Republican officials. For all we know, in a month, we're going to hear the Republicans up on stage talking about this company and how it's pushing wokeness on video games and it needs to be banned or something. Oh, man. The culture war is fucked.
Well, Forspoken was the biggest joke of a game ever, and that one flopped as well. That had them all over it. So this person that
it had them all over it.
For Sweet Baby Inc., Chris Kindred, found out about this Steam curator who had basically the idea of the page was to notify people to let them know about projects that Sweet Baby was attached to.
The Steam curator harassment group Sweet Baby Inc. is led by this person, Ka Brutus Rambo. Here's them trying to be slick so they don't get reported. Even with the discriminatory language filed off, the group itself still fails the code of conduct. Sweet Baby Inc. detected. Yeah, so from what I can tell here, there's like a literal Steam group that came together where the whole point is to like probably review bomb games that have any association with the company. That's a pretty common practice in these online communities. Like when someone wants to make a statement about a game, review bomb the game on Steam, right? And so there are Steam groups that get together for this kind of thing. So I'm guessing that's what this is, and they're talking about it. And so Sweet Baby Inc. is being destroyed after their disgusting past behavior was exposed, is them, quote-unquote, canceling the people in this group. It's really hard to kind of, like, cut through all of the senseless buzzwords to get through to, like, the actual arguments these people make and what they believe in, because it's really nothing. Like, they believe whatever they need to believe to put out their next video.
So Chris Kindred, who works with them, decided, I'm going to harass this person and put them on blast on Twitter to try to get their Steam page shut down. Now,
okay. So is it harassment if somebody puts together a group that is literally named after the company that you are a part of, and the whole point of it is to, like, stalk mass, like, flag, or not mass flag, mass downvote games that have any association with the company, and any engagement with that, like even making a tweet calling it out, is somehow considered harassment. But making an entire group that is named after the goal of like destroying Sweet Baby or whatever is not harassment towards its employees? Isn't review bombing against Steam TOS? Well, as this Chris Kindred was saying in the tweets, they kind of use like euphemistic language so that like when Steam mods look at it, it's not very obvious they're calling for downvotes on a game.
Now, it's also really important to note this Sweet Baby Inc. company is also attached to Valve, the owner of Steam. So Valve is one of their clients as well. So there's a lot of
yes.
Who knows
Oh man, guys, holy shit. I guess, every game we like that is you are going to see some of the most hilarious, mind-bending logic, mental gymnastics you have ever seen if this genuinely starts Gamergate 2.0. It is going to be even dumber than Gamergate 1. You are going to have to see them defend like every single game that is done well despite their association with this company as having no bearing or not being evidence against their claim that every game that associates with them is doomed to fail. That you're going to see some of the most brain-dead arguments for how simultaneously this company that is part of like every big game release period is responsible for all the failed games but has no bearing on the successful games. And you're going to have to hear them explain how like the outliers don't matter. Just like, very similar to how they argue sex and gender, or how, like, sex is like a binary, how they argue that. And you're like, oh, what about intersex people? People with, like, DSDs. Like, this overwhelming amount of the scientific community and doctors, like, agree that sex is more of a spectrum And they'll say, well, those outliers are glitches. They're not supposed to be like that. They're actually like mutants or freaks or anomalies or whatever. Depending on how mask off they are, they'll be more rude about how they refer to intersex people. And they rarely know what being intersex is. So the funniest thing is when you have a conservative arguing with you about it, and you bring up intersex people, and they don't know what that means. They assume intersex is a type of trans identity. And then they start arguing from that premise, and they're like, well, their chromosomes are still yet. And you're like, do you know what being intersex is? And then you can crush them really easily on that. I've had a couple moments like that in debates. Because once again, these people don't know jack shit about, like, trans identities or LGBT stuff. And they take pride in not knowing about it because they consider any knowledge about these topics to be, like, poisonous propaganda.
How this is going to go. But at the time this all blew up, this curator page only had 9,200 followers. As of right now, well, we'll check in on the numbers in a second. It's blown.
What is intersex? People who don't have just XX or XY chromosomes. There are like more than like 1% of people have DSDs or are intersex. They mean the same thing, but DSD is the more common term now, difference of sexual development. And this can lead from anything to like very unrelated things. It can sometimes not have any impact, and sometimes it can result in people having like two sets of genitals that are of like the opposite sexes. It can lead to like having a dick and balls and also like full on breasts. There have been like full on cis guys, as far as they knew, who go to the hospital one day and get like an ultrasound. It's like, sir, so you've got a dick and balls, but you've also got a uterus and fallopian tubes in there. And we went ahead and did a blood test. Yeah, you're intersex, bro. Like, that has happened before. I'm not even joking. These people will consider those instances outliers that don't apply to their rule that they are so desperate to enforce.
No, okay. So this...
It's called confirmation bias. Any evidence that goes against what they believe is not, it's an outlier, it's a glitch, it's an exception, it's not worth considering. Only look at everything else that is what they can twist as evidence for their view.
Kind of backfired on this person. All of their tweets got revealed, all sorts of crazy stuff they've said, and it's gotten even worse. So
like
if you
what?
Look at some of the stuff that's been pointed out now. The original tweet was basically them, Chris Kindred, trying to harass this curator, get him shut down, trying to get Steam to actually close their account because basically...
Okay, so a group dedicated to... who has a logo of the company that this person works for with a circle and a line through it, like ban or destroy or whatever that imagery is supposed to evoke, is not harassment, but just talking about it and saying report it, which, by the way, reporting something is not against the rules. That just makes Steam look over it. So is he like, they're doing awful things and breaking the rules by telling people to get Steam to look at this and decide whether it breaks their rules and take action if it does? They unironically treat it like we're in prison, and like snitching to the platforms is like bad. And they only panic about that kind of thing because they know they are breaking the rules and they are like saying some awful shit.
That's just how terrible these people are. Then you have people pointing out that Zoe Quinn from Gamergate was in cahoots with somebody else who goes by Lego Butts on Twitter, who was...
Zoe Quinn from Gamergate. Oh my fucking god. You know what's really funny about this? These people that are pushing this whole Gamergate 2.0 thing and all that, these are all people... Well, not this guy, clearly, but like the guy who are watching, a lot of them are all people who are like 19, 20, 21. They grew up as teenagers on the original Gamergate content, so they are doing this like very... weak, pathetic attempt to make Gamergate come back. Like, they're like, yeah, we're doing Gamergate 2, it's back, we're doing it again, we're doing Gamergate 2. And I can't really say whether or not it's going to get any traction in this day and age. I mean, it's possible it does. I really can't say right now. But by the looks of things, it really does just look kind of embarrassing. Because the whole... big gotcha from like centrist types against lefties is like, you guys never got over Gamergate. You guys, you think everything's Gamergate. You think everybody wants Gamergate to happen again. You just can't get over Gamergate. And now it's these people desperately saying like, yeah, finally, Gamergate 2, we're finally back. Life is finally worth living again. And I wonder how those people are going to react to these people like acting as though there being a Gamergate happening is the greatest thing to ever happen to them, and this is like returning to their childhood or something.
Actually DDoSing a site that they didn't agree with. Now I'm going to play it for you right here. This guy, oh no, it's Alex on Twitter. He's the one that actually made this video, so shout out to him.
See, here's a tweet from 2014, not 10 years ago, where Felix at LegoBus decided to @Zoe, saying, "We exploded their site. OMG us." Zoe responds with @LegoBus, "Oops, we DDoSed something on accident." What they mean is they were having a conversation about a website called the Fine Young Capitalists. This is back in the Gamergate days. And by doing so, they basically sent pretty much all of their ilk to that website, basically just DDoSing that website inadvertently by having that conversation. In fact, here is Zoe Quinn admitting.
Are you fucking serious? What a reach. Okay, so these guys do not know what DDoSing is, okay? DDoSing is when you packet bomb someone's fucking internet connection, overload it, and cause their internet to reset or shut down for a bit. Thus, like, you can like do this to a website, shut down like its connection, and the site will go down. You can do it to a Minecraft server. And technically, a lot of people going to a website can do the same effect as a packet bomb. When someone says someone DDoSed a website, usually it's implying like they either script kiddied and got like another, like a program or paid for a service where they're able to packet bomb a website. Packet bombing just being like sending a shitload of data, like way more than it can handle to a connection. Like, or like something along those lines, right? But it's literally they had a conversation, mentioned a right-wing website, and the listeners went to the site, and there was so much traffic because the site has poor architecture that it crashed. They consider that DDoSing. Also, 2014, these Gamergate tours, I guess we'll call them, these Gamergator tours, these Gamergate number tours, I guess we'll call them. These number twos, they've decided that it is now their thing to dig up, what is it, 10-year-old tweets now, decade-old tweets to try to cancel people. And not just that, we're digging up decade-old tweets to try to make like severe claims that are the biggest reaches of all time. I don't even know these people, nor do I have any investment in this whole like, well, besides my own like financial investment in that stock. But I have no like emotional investment in this whole like sweet baby ESG thing. It's not really like, this doesn't matter. They've made a mountain out of a molehill here. This is a nothing burger. It's literally manufactured drama. Like they've all decided we're going to freak out about this nothing thing until enough of our audiences think it's a thing that it becomes a thing, which is what Gamergate was originally, to be fair. Like they know you make a mountain out of a molehill, like some guy breaks up with his girlfriend and like accuses them of cheating, and you blow that up into being a conspiracy that the entire gaming journalism industry is like paid for and bought off by these woke feminist game developers that are fucking reviewers for good reviews, right? And that transformed into the whole like all of the companies are woke like claim that's more popular now, and now it's transforming into they work with this company and it has progressive values, and the whole point of it is to like screen media to make sure it won't like offend audiences and cause problems for like stock prices and sales and bottom line. And now they've kind of manufactured a narrative.
To that from the previous deleted tweets that she made earlier. Number 4, the DDoS was nothing other than shitty infrastructure on their part, being unable to handle the traffic from Twitter's convo about them.
That's literally what I just said, by the way. That's probably exactly the case as well. There's no DDoS. It's people went to the site, and it's, by the sounds of it, if a site literally can't handle a bunch of people going to it, a lot of these like Republican sites can't handle that shit because they're like poorly made and just thrown together for like a front of professionalism. They tend to crash, yeah. Yeah, like, believe it or not, if you are competent, you can make and run a site that does not just fucking break from a lot of people being on it, such as my website and Vosh's website. Like, Whiteleaf is competent with making websites. Republicans, overwhelmingly, not so much. Like, you get like a few hundred people going to their websites and they crash, and next thing you know, 10 years later, people are freaking out about it, saying we need to... literally back when Gamergate 1 was happening, like 10 years later, people are freaking out like, we need to do Gamergate 2!
Yes. let me go ahead and use my large platform to talk about people and blame it on their infrastructure rather than anything else. So going back to the original post, we can see that Lego Butts.
I genuinely don't know how I'm meant to take this seriously. They already admitted that they didn't use a packet bombing software and that the DDoSing was not DDoSing, but people going to the website and the traffic crashing it. I don't know how they're like moralizing and virtue signaling about how awful it is to defend this behavior when A, said behavior wasn't even DDoSing or bad, and B, 2014. February 2014, almost 2013, literally like less into the year of 2014 than we are into 2024 right now. That is DDoSing. It is not DDoSing to talk about a website and then for people that heard you talking about it because the Twitter conversation got a lot of attention, for people to then go to it individually, not as like a call to action, and then for the site to crash because of like the incapability of receiving that much traffic. That is not DDoSing. DDoSing is intentionally packet bombing someone's connection.
At Felix at Home has direct ties to Zoe Quinn, who also had direct ties to Anita Sarkeesian, who also worked on Feminist Frequency, and now is directly working with Sweet Baby Inc. Everything that people fought against the last 10 years or 10 years ago about Gamergate, about ethics in journalism, about ethics in general, about not having actual agendas being pushed onto players and consumers, and trying to force diversity and inclusion into video games rather than just letting the artists be the artists themselves, has never left.
My favorite thing in the world is like seeing right now as the right desperately tries to argue this shit and say, actually, the left is being crazy by thinking that Helldivers is a criticism of fascism. And it's like the devs on Twitter are talking about how left-wing they are. Like, I know one of them that's like confirmed this. Like, it's just like, if you actually give a shit about what the devs believe, you would recognize that the devs are, like, in most game companies these days, like, LGBT, left-leaning as fuck, like, pronouns and bio-ass motherfuckers. You would not like the average game developer. If game developers across the world were allowed to have their complete vision without any publisher, like anything, so many games would be artsy, like gay as fuck. Like so many games would be Celeste, essentially. Like so many games would be Life is Strange. So many games would just be like literally the types of games these people piss themselves over if like the majority of devs were just able to have complete creative freedom and budget to make what they want. I'm so glad I'm not this openly online as much as rightoids are, and glad I got off of Facebook and avoided right-wing Twitter at all overall. Yeah, another thing you'll notice is these people like heavily imply that like society as a whole is on their side, and that they're not losers sitting at their computers talking about women in video games bad, and that the majority of people, if they ever saw what they did for a living, would laugh at them and be like, get a real job. Do you think if the quartering met like the average do you think when the quartering goes out in public and a stranger asks, what do you do for a living? Do you think he says, I fight against the woke mob destroying video games with internet content online? Do you think he gives an honest breakdown of what, or do you think he just says, I'm a journalist on the internet. I'm a self-made internet journalist or something like that. Do you think these content creators are proud of their jobs outside of the internet? Because outside of the internet, this type of personality and behavior and thought process and rhetoric is not applauded. It's shamed and made of a joke out of. These types of dudes are the basement dwellers that are made fun of in the vast majority of popular media. It's just that the internet exists as a place where any group of people can come together and create a bubble of support, no matter how heinous and outlier their ideas are. Like, we've seen this big time with the, like, lolicon pedophile community as of late. Like, never before has it been the case where somebody, like, not in thousands of years, I feel like, has it been the case where a normal person can point at a bunch of pedophiles and be like, hey, those guys are pedophiles. And then that person gets dogpiled with negativity. Because that's the state of Twitter and YouTube right now. There are substantially large lolicon YouTubers and accounts, Rev Says Desu, for example, who, like, if you cover them critically, you will get dogpiled and mass reported, and death threats and harassment and a lot of fucking shit sent to you, just because. They've got the numbers. They've got the bubble they've made for, like, protecting each other. Because as I said, much like with conspiracy theorists, when they get into something, they don't learn about the topic. They don't, like, the content they consume about the topic isn't about learning about it or gaining an objective, like, idea of the issues. It's about learning talking points that are then meant to be used to convince more people to believe what they believe. Because the more people you have who believe what you believe, the harder it is for a force of people who don't agree with you to have any real, like, grounds to make demands that you stand by your positions and defend them, right? Like, if you've got a 1 million sub YouTuber who's saying that, like, the earth is flat, but all the YouTubers who are arguing with that content creator about how the earth is round only have 1,000 subs, that 1 million subscriber YouTuber has no real obligation to respond to those people and can just keep making flat earth videos with no real worry about their massive audience being swayed. And that is much the same general idea that the right has made their kingdom off of. The fact that for the majority of these people, their audiences are just looking to find talking points to use against lefties and normies to get them to agree with them, so they don't have to really fundamentally defend the ideas that they are, like, tying themselves to.
Been gone.
And that's pretty much where we're at right now. All these people are all connected. They all know each other. They're all scum. They're all pushing the same agenda.
Isn't it interesting how he never read the article from, like, the already extremely biased... Like, he literally has just scrolled through tweets, not reading anything, just kind of, like, ranting and playing video. No wonder this guy's content's not popping off. He's putting in no effort. Hey, I know it's hard to, like, read articles and read entire tweet threads. Like, it takes, like, a minuscule amount of effort to not, like, actually... just, like, skim over it. But I promise you, your content will be all the better for actually reading the things you're talking about and not just talking out your ass about the entire topic. Just a little YouTuber to YouTuber advice there.
And this person here, Lego Butts, that they mentioned, Grums here pointed out on Twitter that, this other person actually shared it and then...
Interesting.
Grums retweeted it. Mithra is fine pointed out that Felix at Home, or Lego Butts, says abort all the Jews. Now, I don't really care what your opinion is on the whole Israel-Gaza conflict. I've got my own nuanced...
Okay, so I got a couple things to say. So, for starters, I do not agree with whatever joke was being made here. I'm almost certain this is a 2012 Twitter, like, edgy joke that comes back to haunt people who dared to exist on the internet back then. I just want to say it's hilariously ironic that we're now digging up 12-year-old tweets to cancel lefty figures while claiming we are the free speech fighting Gamergate 2. Very, very funny. But also, aren't these the guys that are always, like, 2012 and, like, before that or whatever, like, long time ago internet was a different time? Like, you were able to joke about more. Also, plenty of people change. Like, back in 2012, I didn't know jack shit about politics. Back in 2017, I had politics not too dissimilar from the guy whose video we're watching right now. And then 3 years ago, I was pretty fucking left-leaning, and I'm even more left-leaning now, I would argue. Well, not really more left-leaning, just more, like, knowledgeable about the topics that I am so left-leaning about, I suppose. So yeah, it's just people change. It's been 12 years. Like, I've certainly had a political evolution over 12 years, so I feel like digging up 12-year-old tweets and being like, gotcha, you weren't always woke. It's like, yeah, that's not really a gotcha. It's like saying that somebody who advocates against murder, who is like a reformed, like, prisoner who went to prison for murder, is like a hypocrite because they murdered once. Like, no, I'd say they have even more right to be an advocate against murder, actually. I would say that puts them in a pretty unique perspective to actually give commentary on why murder is bad. I don't think it makes them a hypocrite at all. I think doing bad thing or believing bad thing and then changing is actually good and not hypocritical.
opinion.
Mind you, it's never hypocritical or bad when insert person used to be woke and say woke things, but now they're a conservative. Like, that's never, ever a problem. That's just changing and becoming based. But if somebody used to say stuff like this and becomes, like, more progressive, all of a sudden that's hypocritical, because changing to become more left-wing over 12 years, sorry, not 12 years. What are we talking? No, yeah, 12 years, right? Yeah, 12 years. Fucking hell. That's like being hypocritical or flip-flopping, but becoming more conservative would be just, growing as a person in their view. It's clear hypocrisy. The thing, them calling people who are left-wing hypocritical is itself hypocrisy on their part.
That's pretty messed up. Then you've got certain things like, let's see, this is from Lego Butts again. Pay me to shoot down your white male lead game ideas. This is from 10 years ago. So this person's been working on this ideology, this train of thought for a while. I usually get grossed out when straight white rich people kiss, but even I think those two are pretty cute. Had a nightmare that I was a white male gamer. I just had a thought about trying this again with a
I'm pretty sure these are just jokes. Primarily, okay, so for one, this one's from 2014. Pay me to shoot down your white male lead game ideas. Okay. So like lefty joke, sarcastic lefty joke. Okay, destroyed. Had a nightmare that I was a white male gamer. Obvious lefty joke. Both of these back during the original Gamergate, so making fun of the Gamergaters, like back when Gamergate happened. 2019, I just had a thought about trying this again with a photo of a young white person about to be ripped open, but I'm betting folks would immediately flag it as traumatic, and I'm guessing the image would get taken down before responses accumulated. That's pretty fucked up. I don't know what it's referencing. I don't know if there was like a photo of a young black person being ripped open that they're referencing as like editing to be a white person, seeing if people react differently. But that doesn't look good. And I usually get grossed out when straight white... This is clearly just a sarcastic joke. Well, so we're now like on the hunt for every tweet from every member of this company now, to be like, these are the people who are behind the wokeification of games for the last 10 years. We finally found the people behind it.
Photo of a young white person about to be ripped open, but I'm betting folks would immediately flag it as traumatic, and I'm guessing the image will get taken down before responses accumulated. That's from 5 years ago. Then you have Endymion in here pointing out that they were also attached to Fable, the reboot, which of course is famous for this not very attractive protagonist. And of course...
yes, they are the ones that are enforcing the women must be ugly policy as well, it seems.
Showcasing some of their biggest failures here with Saints.
That's what they claim is the case. There's like a uglification of women in games.
Row, Forspoken, Starfield, the ones we already mentioned.
Oh, but let's not talk about like God of War or Last of Us or any of the massive blockbusters that they were a part of, because those don't count. It's just the games that were unanimously disliked for a vast variety of reasons that have nothing to do with politics or like the identities of characters. They happen to be the ones that are the woke bad games that were ruined by this, not by poor gameplay or poor writing. Didn't Zan react to Endymion's Spider-Man 2 review a few months back ago? Wasn't he the guy who got really mad about and said like Miles Morales will never be Spider-Man? Wasn't that him? Or was that another guy? Yeah, Endymion's another one of those like video game right-wing grifter types.
So yeah, this company here is full of the most vapid, evil, awful people that create the most toxic environment, and all they do is hate their customer base. They hate the gamers, they hate the straight white males, they hate anybody who...
They hate game... I like how he just revealed that he thinks, like, that gamers are straight white males. Like, they hate gamers, they hate straight white males. Okay. Gaming's for straight white males.
And again, I pointed out in my last video about the whole black hairstyle thing. It's not about being against diversity. It's about when diversity and inclusion is always the thing that's being shoved at the forefront down people's throats.
Okay, nothing is being shoved down your throat. The fact that the race or identity of people who exist in the game, when it's not being drawn attention to by the narrative, is a problem for you, and you consider that being shoved down your throat, tells us more about you than you really realize, I think. It shouldn't really be a problem. When you have a character who's like a straight white male protagonist with like brown hair, like a Nathan Drake, right? Like I feel like Nathan Drake like aesthetically very much fits the traditional video game action hero archetype. You know, white dude, you know, medium build but still muscular, pretty lean. You know, pretty attainable body build, like brown hair, pretty common for most like white guys playing video games, more so than blonde or any other hair color. Like they generally try to create this character that approximates the majority of straight white, or not straight, but like white guys playing video games, like in America or Canada, right? And so like the Nathan Drake archetype has been very common. So when you have a character who is a white guy with brown hair, do you ever really think about that fact? This guy definitely doesn't. Like, when he boots up Dying Light, you got, like, you know, white guy, brown hair. You don't really see him much, but, you know, regardless. Do you ever really think the race or gender of the character he's playing ever really comes to mind? Or do you think, like, if he played Dying Light, it's like, zombie game. Oh, okay, here's our character. And it's just, like, playing the game with politics and identity pretty pushed to the back of their mind. That's probably the case. The fact is, when they play a game where suddenly they see, I don't know, Miles Morales, Black Spider-Man, all they can think immediately, the first thing that comes to mind is Black Spider-Man. They don't see, oh, it's Spider-Man. Oh, what's Miles Morales doing? Is he going to infiltrate like a bad guy base or something? Like, they're not thinking about it the same way as they do when they play a game that just has a identifiable, for them, main character. Instead, they think there must be a political agenda being shoved down my throat here, when it doesn't even come to mind when representation is not present for them. And that's the clear bias that's, you know, making these people see wokeness everywhere, really.
When it's already something that we're okay with. Everyone is already fine with including everybody, as long as you're not going to try to change what we like about the games.
Okay, so do you guys remember when for years and years and years, it was make your own games if you want games to be woke? And now they are making games that are woke, and now that's a problem. The original motto of Gamergate was make your own games. If you want them to be like SJW or woke or whatever, progressive, make your own games. And now it's stop making these games. How is it that this media is getting changed exactly? Like, how is God of War changed by wokeness? Do you have some sort of secret insider info that confirms that Angra Boda exists and is black because of this company? Can you make a good argument for why her being black hurts the game and takes away from it in some way? I'd like to hear that. Could you explain to me how, like, I don't know, wokeness ruined, what's it called? Saints Row new game that failed? How was it wokeness that destroyed that game? Because I have a feeling it was bad gameplay, bad writing, and a lack of ability to stick with, like, the aesthetics and vibes that made the original game so successful. Much like modern Halo. Like, modern Halo, for one, like, yeah, Halo Infinite's a good example. That's a game that, like, pretty divorced from a lot of political, like, you know, culture war stuff. Bombed. Not bombed, like, in the sense of poor sales. It was a Halo game. It did really well. But it bombed very badly in reviews and wider reception. The gameplay was great. The game was simply too short. It was crunched out. There was, like, barely a campaign. The villains were really flat. Like, it was too little of an experience all around. And it bombed. A game, if you took Halo Infinite and you added a gay character to it, like a character that is, like, known to be gay, that would literally be the entire focus of the game's problems for these people. They would be making video after video referring to Halo Infinite as the woke game that like, ruined the Halo franchise or whatever. There would be no talk about the gameplay or about any of that. Or if they did talk about it, they would have some way of tying the wokeness into that.
Again, no one's trying to change, you know, no one's trying to erase black people or women or whatever from video games. They've existed for forever. So stop trying to force us to think that we need to be part of this, like, crazy ideology. And if you want to look at where...
Where's the point to this video? Stop trying. No one wants there to not be diversity in the games. It's always been there. We're not trying to erase diversity, so stop trying to get people to believe in your woke diversity beliefs. Was that just like a nothing sentence meant to like just be a gotcha for conservatives to clap at, but it actually just means nothing and is an argument against and for nothing? Like that I genuinely don't think that statement was an argument for or against anything.
The Steam curator is at now, his actual group is up to 31,000 members. He's gaining new members every minute. And his curator page, 78,893 followers. So this absolutely blew up in their face. Somebody, in fact, pointed out that Suicide Squad, which is another Sweet Baby Inc. Associated game, has less current active players than people that are actually in-game on other games attached to this group. It's just crazy. Absolutely mind-blowing. This has been like the most epic blowback to anything I've ever seen. Share your thoughts down below. I want to hear from you guys.
Something interesting to me is that these people view companies financially succeeding or failing depending on what, like, ideology the game they've decided is associated with. Like, they will go from, like, don't defend or don't attack the multi-billion-dollar company. That's you, lefties. That's you. Like, with the meme. If it's, like, saying, hey, actually, you're kind of, like, a little insane when it comes to Disney and you're mad about, like, gay characters. But then when they, like, defend the fuck out of a company that's making a game that they're super excited for, all of a sudden that mindset is fine. They don't have any consistency. It's all just a content mill for them.